And welcome, everybody, to another Nothing Like a Good Book. Something a bit different this time for this episode. By the way, thanks for the letters and the emails. I really appreciate that. It means you're enjoying this particular podcast. And if there is a particular book you feel I should be promoting, by all means, let me know about it. Mark at markbishopmedia.com, okay? Now, this particular one, a little bit different. You know, Jill Nussinow, who? Jill Nussinow. She was born in Brooklyn, New York, grew up on Long Island in New York, where my wife's from, actually, originally, romping in the woods and enjoying life in the suburbs. Welcome, Jill. Where are you romping now, mate?
Well, now I am on the southern Mendocino coast of California, still romping in the woods as often as I can, so it's just beautiful here.
Lovely. Well, we've had some weather and a half where I am in Tucson, Arizona. Jill, it's been nothing for months, dry, and then boom, a couple of days ago we had a big storm and then a bit of a rest and then boom, last night a bit more again. And, we need the rain. We need the rain badly here. So I imagine, do you get a lot of rain where you are?
Oh, my goodness. We get rain in the winter, and we had so much rain this year that basically... Well, we had so much rain that we didn't have power for 9.5 days.
Whoa.
So that was fascinating, and we lost about 10 very large trees, like 100 to 150 feet tall. So, yeah, we get rain, but not this time of year, thank goodness.
Well, as long as you can keep growing those gorgeous veggies of yours, right? You have an impressive study background, Jill. The University of Miami, a Bachelor of Business Administration, and Florida International University, you earned a master's degree in nutrition and dietetics. And while getting those, you worked as a cocktail waitress in South Miami. You're no slouch, mate, are you?
I did what I had to do. I'm very diverse, I will say that. Yeah, it was kind of an interesting existence. And the one thing that really stands out to me about that experience is I took microbiology at 8 a.m. and I worked all night as a cocktail waitress. And my teacher remembered me as the girl who fell asleep on her desk.
You're out
This
studying.
was even after I gave him all kinds of champagne bottles so that he could make his own brew, whatever he was making. But that's how he remembered me. I was like, oh, great. And, it's funny because I now do a lot of fermentation, and I wish that I had been more awake in that class and paying more attention to all these Latin names that he was telling us, but I really couldn't keep my eyes open.
Well, look at it. It was worth it because now you're a famous culinary educator, registered dietitian who had a business vegetarian connection. And that morphed into the Veggie Queen, because that's who we have on, ladies and gentlemen, the Veggie Queen, since around the year 2000. By the way, who titled you the Veggie Queen anyway?
It's an interesting thing. I was teaching at a cooking school where I had been a number of times, and somebody who worked there introduced me as the resident Veggie Queen. And I thought, oh, that's so good. I have to use that. And when I got online to try to get the domain for Veggie Queen, it was already taken. And it was fairly early on in the internet. So I had to go with the Veggie Queen, which is even better, although there are other people who consider themselves Veggie Queen, but I'm the one.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what did you end up doing? Was that a .com or a .net that was taken at the time?
Oh, it's a .com. And I've had it for a very long time. And, initially it was kind of funny. I knew this woman and she did websites. And I said, well, why would I have a website? I don't really have anything. And she said, well, you could just put up when you're doing classes or other things. And I was like, oh. And my late mother, who had a business and she did a lot of online stuff, she kept pushing me. You have to get a website. You have to get a website. So finally, I got the website. And once I had the website, I started doing more things. And now the website is, pretty going there. And, throughout the years, I've done a lot of things, and they live on my website. And so on.
That's great. Now, the book is called, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the book is called The Veggie Queen, if you didn't get that, all right? Great book, The Veggie Queen. Beautiful, a beautiful cover, too. Very nice, very jumps out at you. What I wanted to ask you this, Jill, going back, the University of Miami, a Bachelor of Business Administration, right? Then Florida International University, a master's degree in nutrition, right? And dietetics. Now, let's go a little deeper on that. How does one get a degree in nutrition?
Well, you have to get, okay. So when I got my degree in business, I took 0 science classes. I mean, 0, not a single one. And then I went to get my master's degree, and they're like, well, you don't have any of this stuff. So I had to take all of the chemistry, biochemistry, I mean, you name it, I had to take it to be able to get my degree. But I went to a school, Florida International at the time was on the quarter system, and it was the 2-year upper level and then master's program. So they did not offer any of the science classes I needed. So I had to go to Miami-Dade Community College and take those classes. I think there's only 1 or 2. And I took them at the same time, and they were on a semester system, and I took them at the same time as I was taking the actual classes that needed the behind-the-scenes stuff. So it was a little confusing, but I actually, in high school, did very well in science, so it wasn't beyond me to do that. And most people would not go from Bachelor of Business Administration to nutrition, but it was an interest of mine. And since I didn't want to do what my late father wanted me to do, which was go to law school, I decided to get into nutrition, for which he thanked me later. But at the time, he was kind of upset. Like, what do you mean you're going to go to school for nutrition? I was like, this is my interest.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. You wouldn't be Robinson Crusoe when it comes to that. How many fathers, disappointed in the beginning about their child, male or female, taking whatever, university courses or new careers that they wanted to do. But aren't you glad you didn't do law? No.
Well, here's the truth. My sister did it, and she retired kind of early with a lot of money. And I didn't do it, and I was like, and she reminds me, you've had a wonderful career, and you've got to do a lot of things that you really love doing. I'm like, okay, so, it's often a trade-off. And so, yes, and at the time, I didn't realize there was actually law that I would have loved, which was food policy law, but it didn't really exist at the time. So, like everything else, it's really about the timing. And, I'm happy that I did what I did, and at this point, nutrition couldn't be more confusing. So I'm really happy that I'm still in the field and helping educate people, because I think at this time, there's all there is confusion, really.
Oh, yeah, but I think you're very much on the right track, young lady. Quite frankly, where we're all heading, we'll be looking for your place to get fresh veggies, I tell you. Now.
Well, I think that's, the thing that I've said for many, many years is the one thing, I don't care what way you're eating, the one thing we can agree upon is that people need to eat more vegetables. Any way you look at it,
absolutely.
People need to eat more vegetables.
Absolutely.
And it turns out only 10% of people in the U.S. are getting the recommended number of servings of vegetables a day.
Is it
and
really?
And I make up for a lot of people.
Gee, that's a low number, isn't it? That's a very low percentage. Yeah. No wonder everybody's sick. No wonder everybody's got all these this and that,
right.
This and that. And there's another virus coming out of Peru or somewhere, they reckon now. Stone the crows. We've had enough of it, haven't you? Had enough? I tell you what. Anyway, if I got to get more veggies into me, and I agree with you, this book is worth getting, folks. If I was to say to you, why are you proud of this book? Why are you proud of The Veggie Queen?
Well, I have to tell you, I love The Veggie Queen. I was just talking about it this morning with a friend. That was my first book of the 4 that I have, and it was a major undertaking because I self-published it. I did it at a time when you couldn't learn a whole lot about this, And I had a friend who illustrated the cover for me, and I told her what I wanted, and pretty much on almost the first try, she nailed that cover. And it just was really the book that was crying out to be made at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I separated the chapters by seasons, and then I had one chapter that's called Anytime at All. And the other one that I'm really big into, which is my latest book, Vegan Under Pressure, is pressure cooking. And it wasn't until the Instant Pot that I became popular. But I did regular pressure cooking, and I really wanted to put that in the book. And then the other part of that book that I really love is I had a young illustrator do all the internal illustrations, and he was only, I think, 15 at the time. And it was a joy to work with him. He was so talented, and it just was like, it felt like my baby, even though I had already had one. But it just really felt like it portrayed me and what I really wanted to teach people. And, I taught at Santa Rosa Junior College for 30 years in the culinary department, a couple of years in nutrition. But, I really want to educate people. That's my main goal, and I think the book does it.
All right. Well, look, in fairness to you, you got a little plug in, and we should do that. What are the other three? The Veggie Queen was number one. What are your other three books now?
The second one I did is called The New Fast Food, and that was all pressure cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is called Nutrition Champs, and every letter stands for a class of ingredients. And I did that book with more than 40 other people contributed their recipes, because I was like, I have good recipes, but other people have them too. So I solicited recipes from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the CHAMP stands for cruciferous vegetables, herbs and spices, alliums, mushrooms, peas, beans, and lentils, and seeds and nuts. And then my most recent book, which was published by a company that's no longer in existence, but now it's, it was Mariner, and now it's HarperCollins, is called Vegan Under Pressure. And that is the book that people call it their Instant Pot Bible.
Right.
And which is a funny thing, because when I wrote my first book, there was no Instant Pot. And people really love that book. It's a really good book. I got to put in what I wanted to put in. Sadly, the publisher kind of has done very little for me, and in fact needs to do some updating, but I don't even know who my contact there is anymore.
Oh, what a shame.
Which is why self-publishing is good, because you always know the person in charge.
Yeah, I know. But I tell you what, you should write down this name, Scott Lorenz. He's based in New York, and he's an excellent promoter. A lot of the authors that I interview come through Scott. And they also get trailers, little video trailers of their book these days.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they got to earn their money, But he's a terrific guy, and he'll do something for you. Honestly, Jill, it's worthwhile. So these books, though, are they available on Amazon?
I'm pretty sure they're available on Amazon. I know that at least 3 of them are. I'm not sure about the Veggie Queen. I haven't looked lately, but it may be.
All right. Well, it should be, because, look, at this day and age, I'm telling you, between all the things in the air and food, what we eat, what we intake, and here's me talking, but seriously, that is the number one thing that can keep you well. Never mind all the Western medicine and tablets and, all these vitamin stuff that you piss out anyway. But the reality is good food, healthy food that hasn't been messed around with, and, prepared the way that you can and how you show in your books, that'll get you well. And I tell you what, there was a time in my life, Jill, back, what do they say, way back then, but I was working in television, and it was I think it was about my second TV job somewhere. I was on the east coast of Australia in a beautiful spot where there were a lot of, not hippies, but people that lived in, they lived in lovely homes and they were in the bush, but they ate healthily. Or healthy. And they would do what you do and how you prepare and stuff like that. And I was sick there for a while, and I was very fortunate to have this lady prepare food for me of the same sort of stuff you do, and it was all natural and wholesome, and even the burgers were plant burgers. You know what I mean? No meat.
Right.
But it was amazing, and I got well and lost a lot of weight, and it was the best time of my life that I felt good. So I know from personal first-hand experience, if you get a chance to, be able to eat right, you're giving yourself a fair go, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm reading a book, which is a fascinating book, and it's written by a doctor, and I don't usually resonate with these books, but it's called Outlive: The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia, MD. And he talks about his experience, and he says the two things you can do, eat right and exercise. Those are the things we know for sure are going to be the things that are going to really protect people. The third one actually is sleep, which is huge in this country, not getting enough sleep. And so I think, we have to consider all of it. You mentioned Western medicine, and people want to separate parts of their body, but it's all one body. And so it's really going to respond. And food is I tell people, if you have a car and you really like your car, you're not going to start putting water in that gas tank. You're going to put in the gas that it requires. And that's what people, it's more than fuel, obviously, because, we're very attached to what we eat and what we grew up with. But, it really is the building blocks of our body. And if you put in junk, you turn into junk, sadly. And it's an interesting thing, because I was talking to a friend and I said, we've gotten so far from what really is food that people don't recognize it, but and I tell people, eat what's in season as much as you can, because that's what really matters. It's if you can eat what's in season, I just got some nectarines that
we've got some beauties here at the moment. Yes, lovely nectarines.
One of these, if anybody ate one and said, "Oh, that's not good," I would think there's something wrong with them.
No, season is right, very much so, and they're good for you, aren't they? You hear about, where stone fruit can be detrimental to one's body and all that jazz. But look, one day you read it's good, one day you read it's bad. You don't know what to believe these days,
Well, that is true, and I would say nutrition's only gotten more and more confusing. But if you stick with the basics, like fruits and vegetables, mushrooms, and whole grains, nuts, seeds, things that actually came from the earth, you will be better off than eating anything that came out of a can, a box, a package, unless it's those things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with canned pineapple or canned artichoke hearts if they're in water, but, because you can't get everything all the time, and we've gotten very used to that. But, the best things are going to be the things that somebody picked for you this morning or yesterday. They're just going to taste different. They're going to be different. It's just kind of an interesting thing about that.
You've been an entrepreneur, Jill, for almost 40 years now, consulting with business, corporations, even healthcare companies, as well as authoring 4 cookbooks and doing freelance writing for magazines when they existed, and online sites. You've been kept busy, so to speak. Did you ever get a chance or an offer to maybe do a TV series or anything on wholesome cooking?
It's interesting. At one point, Oprah had a little contest she was doing, and I filmed a segment called Eating for Energy, and I just showed it at a conference I was at, and I hadn't seen it since I filmed it, which probably was definitely more than 10 years ago. And I had the most beautiful array of vegetables, and I showed people how to cook this particular vegetable. I was like, wow. I mean, it seemed relevant, and I thought, this was a long time ago. So no, I'd say, Mark, the whole thing about the whole production thing, I've been through it, and I did do filmed, I think 3 or 4 DVDs, which still, and one of them was on electric pressure cooking, and that was my most recent one. And it was a very, low budget production. But even that was like a lot of production.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit of work.
You have to put things in and out. And it's just not like my natural, rhythm, which is a little, all over the place. So it's really hard to capture me if I'm doing it without doing the one thing.
Right.
So no, it's I don't want to be a TikTok sensation. I'm not into reels on Instagram, although I am on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in some social media, but at this point, I just want to keep educating people. I don't want to have anything I don't want a big commitment. How about that?
Well, you're busy enough. You got a monthly newsletter. You produce cooking demonstrations for various organizations. You still do conferences and festivals, as well as, I think you still do that Zoom cooking class, I think, for thousands of readers don't you?
Yeah, I still do Zoom cooking classes. I'm going to have one coming up on fermentation. They kind of pop up as they pop up. One of the things about me is I do things very organically, like growing food, which I do some of, but it's like, when it kind of hits me, I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that. So, the pandemic was fascinating. Before the pandemic, I really didn't know how to do a Zoom cooking class. And then I learned how to do that, and I did quite a number of them. And, it's great because I got people from all over the country who could join in, who couldn't come see me at any of my local things. So that really expanded my audience because now they could tune in to see it live. And so I love that about Zoom. And here's the other thing I love about teaching through Zoom. I don't have to share the food with anybody. When I'm done, I get to eat it.
You're a guts.
Like right now, I'm doing these library cooking demonstrations where I'll make samples for 20 people.
Right.
And I'll be done, and I'll be like, oh, I have no food. But at home, it's all my food. So
yeah, well, listen, I'm going to run out of time soon, and I want to get a little bit more from you. The first cookbook we talked about, why did you write that? As a matter of interest, shortly.
I wrote the cookbook because people kept saying, "Where's your cookbook?" And I said for at least 2 years, I'm working on it.
Okay.
And by the time that it was coming to the third year, I was like, I can't say that anymore. So I just sat down and wrote it.
Yeah, well, you got to see. You can't keep bluffing. You got to do it,
Yeah.
So what, that's what motivated you to write more cookbooks anyway. And we'll just cover those titles again quickly. Give them to me again, your other books.
Is The New Fast Food, All Pressure Cooking, Nutrition Champs, my most nutrition-oriented book, and the last one is Vegan Under Pressure.
Okay. Fantastic. And they're all available on Amazon. And I think, can you buy these books off your own website?
Yes, I have the books on my website. The one that I don't have is the Veggie Queen. It's kind of currently out of print, but if anybody wanted it. And I do sell it as a PDF download, which I do with my first 3 books. The other one, if you want it on Kindle, you have to get it from Amazon.
Okay. And you're on LinkedIn to read about you, and Twitter, and of course, Facebook page, your URL there, Facebook, The Veggie Queen. And but what is your website? TheVeggieQueen.com?
My website is TheVeggieQueen.com.
Right. That's simple. It's sort of started you all. It's the brand, isn't it, when it really gets down to it? What aspects of your business do you love doing, in all honesty?
The aspect of my business, I actually love writing my newsletter. And it's really a joy because I talk not just about recipes and food, I talk about all kinds of health. And I really love doing that because I believe if you are happy, if you are healthy, you can be happy. And if you're not healthy, you can work on getting there. And that's for me, the joy of sharing the information that I do in my newsletter.
So when you write a book and then you're thinking of the title, does that automatically come from what you're preparing and what that particular, lesson is about, if you like?
Well, the first one was really easy. The second one, it was just the title, The New Fast Food, because and it's not a new book. So it's no longer the new fast food, but it's still the new fast food. And then the nutrition champs actually came from Dr. Joel Furman. He had something that he called G-bombs, and I didn't like the name, so I sat with that, and I came up with champs, which I like a lot. And then the last one, vegan under pressure, it's just what it is. You know,
that's rather clever, actually. I like that one. Vegan under pressure, meaning cooking pressure, right?
Yep, and I worked with my agent on that. She was very helpful, and she did quite a bit of hand-holding for me. And I guess she earned her 15%, I will say.
Oh, everything's a business, isn't it? I tell you what. Did I ask you if you traveled a lot at all? You know, I mean, one has a dream of if you ever write a nice book or you become, you know, well-known and you're in a niche. You're in a special niche, you know, right? Jill Nussinow, I mean, have you been to book signings and gone to maybe other cities and that sort of jazz, you know?
Absolutely. I've been to other cities. I usually at a festival or somewhere, and I actually am very privileged. I speak at a place in Tecate, Mexico called Rancho La Puerta. I go there usually 4 or 5 times a year, and so people can often find me there. But I've done book signings all over the place. But, you know, the thing that I've loved most about book signings is actually either being at the library, being at a farmer's market, not so much a bookstore, which is really fascinating. You know, a lot of people don't go to bookstore book signings, but although there's a place in Miami I want to go called Books and Books, and I'm hoping to get there, but in order to do it, I believe I need to have another book, which has been super slow coming. But it could come out. You never know.
Let me ask you, what is it that you love about pressure cooking?
Pressure cooking, some people love slow cookers. I am a fast-moving person. And so for me, pressure cooking is ideal. It could be 5 o'clock and I could say, what's for dinner? And I can cook beans that I love, or I can cook anything in an hour or less, and the subtitle of the new fast food is Whole Food Meals in less than 30 minutes. So pressure cooking really works for me because I just don't want to have to really think in advance, and I can make great food easily.
Well, let me ask you a question because, you know, it costs you to do your business. It costs you, you know, to write and do other things and distribute and all the rest of it. Now, you've got to have some income. And with that degree that you got in business administration, who do you go after as a sponsor in reference to the cookers? Do you have any national brand back you with a certain type of pressure cooker? Do you have favorites?
Well, I used to do that somewhat. But, you know, there's a lot of treacherous spots in there because I will only actually promote products that I absolutely love. And I haven't been willing to only, you know, I say it's like, people say, which is your favorite pressure cooker? I'm like, the one that's in front of me. You know, I'm not willing to be married to a sponsor, although somebody came to me with a lot of money. But, you know, these sponsor deals don't come like that a lot. No. And so I'd rather be a free agent than just have a sponsor who wants all of me. I'm pretty fickle when it comes to this stuff.
Jill Nussinow, in closing, I want to ask you, why do you eat the way that you do?
I eat the way I do because it makes me feel great. You know, I read these books on like aging. People wake up and they have aches and pains and this and that. And I'm like,
God, sounds like me. Yep.
Yeah, I wake up every morning, you know, almost every morning. You know, there are exceptions, feeling great and feeling like I just really want to share my energy with the world. And I think it truly comes from eating so well for so long. And, you know, I really think I can help a lot of people emulate what I do. Not exactly the same, but, and people are like, if you cooked for me, I'd eat different. I'm like, well, how about if you cook for you? You know, wow. This is not hard work here. You know, it takes shorter for me to cook the food at home than to get in the store. I mean, to get in the car and drive to the store, pick out the ingredients, come home and, or go to a restaurant. It's like just easier, and I get to eat what I want.
Well, there you go. And, listen to you. You're a ball of energy and fun to be with, and I really appreciate the time you've given us today for Nothing Like a Good Book. And, folks, Jill Nussinow, take a leaf out of her book. I'm telling you, you'll get well. Her books, of course, The Veggie Queen, way back as far as 2000, out of print with so many sales all over the world, different dialects and different nationalities have loved the thing. But the new fast food is book number 2, Nutrition Champs, and, of course, Vegan Under Pressure. They're the 4 books so far, with more to come. Jill Nussinow, ladies and gentlemen. Look her up online, with your nice cup of herbal tea or a cup of joe if you're naughty like me, in your parties, your PJs. And you can even send her an email. You don't mind giving out your email address, do you?
Oh, no. It's Jill@theveggiequeen.com, and I love to be in touch with people. And I want to thank you, Mark, for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. You're interesting and different and nice. And that's what I try to get with authors. If you look at all the Nothing Like a Good books that are on the site on markbishopmedia.com, which is also Tucson Business Channel, but if you look at them all, they're all diverse, they're all different. But in fact, Jill, I'm happy for one of the guys at the moment. He's cracked it big with Hollywood if they ever get back again. But they're going to do a massive series on his books. It'll be, as big as Harry Potter, maybe. So good on him, It's well done. All right, Jill, thanks. Lovely speaking with you. We'll come back another day. Jill Nussinow, ladies and gentlemen, The Veggie Queen. Make sure you have a good read of it, have a good look at it. It's on Amazon, of course, but at her website, theveggiequeen.com, you can get it direct and download the thing, okay? All right, Jill, Uru, be good. And if you can't, you be careful, okay?